I have to say, shout out to my friend Rob's house here in Sacramento. That's some nice lighting. He has it set up nice. We're in the fabulous 40s, as they like to say in Sacramento. You got the light coming in from the outside. Beautiful day in the Central Valley. And technically around the nation, fun fact, this is the least productive workday of the year for Americans because everybody's hungover from the Super Bowl yesterday. Now, thankfully, we're on the West Coast, and there's no better sports viewing time zone than the West Coast because games are earlier. You don't have to wait all day for them to start like all those poor people back in New York. And that means that you're also not, just completely hammered and still drinking at like 9 or 10 p.m. on Super Bowl Sunday, waiting for the game to end, right? 3:30 p.m. Pacific time was the start. That means it's 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. That means it's like 10 o'clock when they're going through the nerve-wracking final drive on the East Coast. And I still remember covering the 49ers Super Bowl in Miami a couple seasons ago. And boy, we're sitting there writing after the loss for the 49ers at like 1 or 2 a.m., just way too late. So time zone-wise, we're a little bit better off here on the West Coast. Productivity-wise, probably people that are watching this at work with your boss not really happy about it. You're probably not on your best game today just because it is the day after Super Bowl Sunday. Again, that's a fact. Productivity is down around the nation right now, but be happy that you're on the West Coast because you had a little extra time to recover after that game yesterday. And, why don't we talk about that before I get to the running back position? Because we are in our State of the 49ers series right now on The Athletic. You could see the article right next to me. In fact, I'm going to link it right now in the comment section. Did quarterbacks the other day. Running backs are out now. Receivers and tight ends are going to be next. Then we move to the offensive line. Then we move to the defense. But go to the comment section, click on the link, subscribe to The Athletic. We'll talk about that running back piece in a while. Yesterday, I gave my Super Bowl analysis right after the game. Just did it live with the phone. Didn't have this nice little setup. I didn't want to take the time to do all that because we were watching the Olympics. We're having some fun here after the Super Bowl. That came down to the trenches yesterday, right? The Rams had Aaron Donald, and yes, the Bengals had DJ Reader. They had Hubbard. They had Trey Hendrickson. They stopped the Rams' run game as well, and they really put, I thought, a little bit of a wrench in the Rams' offensive plans, especially after Odell Beckham Jr. tore his ACL. But the Bengals weren't quite as strong as LA was up front on the defensive line. And because of Aaron Donald, who's that difference maker, the Rams were able to be, just a little bit more disruptive. And both teams were disruptive, but that extra disruption that the Rams caused with Aaron Donald up front just blew up the game. 5 out of Burrow's 9 final dropbacks were sacks, to give you an idea of how the Rams won that game up front. So reminiscent of the NFC Championship game, right? I thought it was eerily similar. That last throw from Joe Burrow, desperation heave while Donald has him wrapped up. Nothing the quarterback can do at that point. Eerily similar to how the 49ers met their demise at SoFi Stadium just 2 weeks before that, with Garoppolo trying to work out of Donald's clutch and throwing the ball up. Ended up being a pick, but it was 3rd and long. He was trying to avoid a 4th and 20, which they weren't going to convert anyway. So if you don't win up front, if you can't pass protect, when the money is down, you're probably going to lose at the highest level. And that was the highest level of football. That was the Super Bowl yesterday. Year prior, Patrick Mahomes, everybody thinks he's the second coming at the quarterback position. Maybe he is, but even the second coming at QB can't operate at the highest level without decent pass protection. So the Buccaneers in last season's Super Bowl roughed Mahomes up because the Chiefs did not have what it took up front. Year prior to that, the 49ers did not have what it took up front to hold off Frank Clark, to hold off Chris Jones. I mean, you go back, even 2018 was Rams-Patriots, right? Jared Goff wasn't doing very well against the Patriots the year before. I mean, this is a tried and true formula and tried and true truth about football. And it is that you win and lose titles at the line of scrimmage. And I think yesterday's was definitely lost by the Bengals by the fact that that offensive line just was not good enough to get the job done against the Rams. And you sit there and you got to tip your cap to Aaron Donald for getting the job done for the LA Rams. I mean, it's not just Donald, it's Leonard Floyd. It was Von Miller. Greg Gaines in the middle is a huge part of that effort for LA. big nose tackle, fire hydrant type who's just there stopping the run, clogging up blockers, letting the edge guys, letting Donald go to work. And once Aaron Donald was, the Rams are a little bit tricky with their 5-man fronts, rushing 4, but disguising who they're going to bring. Once they're able to get Donald into more consistent one-on-one situations, confuse that Cincinnati offensive line a bit, mano a mano, they were just better, right? So all the talking head shows are going to be, dedicated to the officiating. They're going to be dedicated to. I thought Stafford made a great no-look throw on that last drive. I'll give Stafford all the credit that he deserves for that. Give Cooper Kupp all the credit he deserves for that. They're force-feeding Kupp. He got the job done late. But if we want to look at this from a macro point of view, I don't think Stafford's better than Joe Burrow. I think they're both good quarterbacks. But I think that, if Aaron Donald changed teams yesterday, then the Bengals win the game, right? I think it's as simple as that. So you either do the very unrealistic thing of trading Aaron Donald right before the Super Bowl. That's not going to happen. Or if you're the Bengals, you come back next season and you build a better offensive line in front of Joe Burrow to be able to block monsters like that. And, the Bengals may not have to play the Rams next year. Who has to play the Rams next year at least twice? The 49ers. So you better build up that front. And we'll talk about that in the State of the 49ers offensive line edition. This is State of the 49ers running back edition. So make sure to subscribe to the channel because we're going to talk about some of the issues confronting the 49ers in the backfield. So what does it look like right now? Well, Deebo Samuel's in the picture, but let's look at the performance of the group this past season. Darker blue is further above league median. Darker red is further below the league median. So you have Mitchell, Samuel, Jeff Wilson, Trey Sermon, and JaMychal Hasty as the 49ers running backs who had at least enough carries to make the chart. But the problem is that only Elijah Mitchell had enough carries to make all of the categories, make the cutoff in all the categories. So we had to go through a few different categories, especially in advanced metrics, to be able to fairly judge what's going on here. But standard yards per carry, Deebo Samuel, 6.1. Awesome, right? Right near the top of the league. Elijah Mitchell, 4.7. Very good. Trey Sermon, 4.1. JaMychal Hasty, 4.3. The worst 49ers runner in terms of raw efficiency was Jeff Wilson at 3.7 yards per carry. However, gauging rushing production, especially if you're just using yards per carry, is going to be really tricky because you've got different defenses against different backs. Some guys face more loaded boxes. Some guys run in situations where the defense is more geared toward the run. Some guys just have bad luck because they're behind worse blocking on a particular play. So there's so much outside of a running back's control that can cloud up their yards per carry that you have to look at it from a more advanced view. So we have analysts who try to do that, right? NFL Next Gen Stats is a cool one called rushing yards over expectation. They use the tracking data, the GPS data that's in the shoulder pads of all these players to see how far the defense is and how quickly the defense is moving on any given play. And they're able to calculate what a running back should get based on those parameters and how many yards he does actually get. So that's where rushing yards over expectation comes in. Then there's a guy named Tej Seth, who's an analyst, does some good stuff. You should follow him on Twitter online, who thinks that version of rushing yards over expectation that the NFL Next Gen Stats comes out with doesn't have enough parameters to make it, an accurate reflection of what a running back is doing. So Tej comes up with a system that takes into account blocking scores on any given play, box counts, and a couple other things. And he gets the rushing yards over expectation based on that. And then you have elusive rating. That's from Pro Football Focus. And those guys, they factor in broken tackles, missed tackle rate, how many yards after contact each player gets. And they factor it into how well a runner does against what should be tackles. So these are all more advanced metrics that let us gauge how a running back does. And if you look at blue versus red, look how dominant Deebo Samuel was across the board. I can even make this a little bigger for all of you. Deebo Samuel, dark blue in yards per carry. That's a simple metric. Didn't qualify in Next Gen Stats, but in the other rushing yards over expectation, 0.71. So, nearly a yard more than the average running back would get. That's what Deebo Samuel would gain on every carry. And then his elusive rating was the best in the NFL. And this is a wide receiver playing running back. 130.5 elusive rating is completely off the charts. So this just should give you an appreciation of how good Deebo Samuel was. The 49ers absolutely should continue using him in the backfield. The question is a matter of load. You don't want to give him 20 carries a game because you don't want Deebo to get hurt, right? Anybody that you're running into the ground, and I think the 49ers really used Elijah Mitchell heavily this year. Well, it's no surprise that he fought through at least 5 injuries. Those are the 5 that were documented this season. He had, the broken finger, so plays right after surgery. He had a knee injury. He had a rib injury at one point. I mean, I lost track of all the times Elijah Mitchell got hurt this year. And he absolutely was a workhorse for the 49ers. But it's important that you keep these guys fresh. And in the case of Deebo Samuel, was one of the best wideouts in football and also one of the best backs in football. Well, I mean, you could see the metrics here. The efficiency is absurd, but you have to keep the volume at a reasonable level to make sure that efficiency stays in the dark blue across the board. So we'll talk about Deebo in a second because that was one of the great seasons that we've ever seen. But Elijah Mitchell, you ask, it was that an efficient season or was it not? Because he was running against crowded 8-man boxes 39.3% of the time, number 3 rate in the league. Most of the metrics seem to think that it was a good year for Elijah Mitchell. And I think those match the eye test. This guy can hit the outside zone. This guy can get to the edges. He could slip through those small creases, and he could do it more efficiently than essentially every other 49ers running back was able to do it this season, with the exception of Raheem Mostert. And that's the guy that I want to talk about to open up this video. Mostert is special, but the 49ers obviously only got 2 carries from him before he got hurt this season. It's no coincidence that both those carries were like 10 yards in that game against the Lions. You talk about speed. You talk about Elijah Mitchell's ability to hit the outside zone. I could compliment him till the cows come home, but Raheem Mostert is different. Raheem Mostert looks like he's speed skating, right? It doesn't really look like he's running. It looks like he's gliding across that field. He's got explosiveness that you just don't see even at this level. And we know how fast the NFL game is. And we know that all of these guys were either the fastest guy on their college team or a 4.3 in the 40 or both, right? But Raheem Mostert even makes all of those defenders who were so fast at the previous level and who look quick against other running backs, he makes them look slow. The problem is that that's a healthy Raheem Mostert. And he's now on the wrong side of 30, and I don't know if you can count on health from Raheem Mostert. But he hits the outside zone differently than everybody else, and it completely changes how the 49ers can align offensively and what Kyle Shanahan can call, because it stretches the defense out and compromises the defense in ways that even Elijah Mitchell can't. The problem is a healthy Mostert a pipe dream? Because it very well may be a pipe dream, because Raheem Mostert has dealt with injuries in essentially every single season under Kyle Shanahan with the 49ers. So when you're talking about team building moving forward, the 49ers have Elijah Mitchell under contract and obviously Deebo Samuel under contract as 2 players who are capable of running the football. The rest of their room they have to fill out, and you wonder, okay, they're going to be able to bring back JaMychal Hasty. He's going to be an exclusive rights free agent. If they want to, they could bring back Jeff Wilson. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent, but as you saw from the chart there, coming off the knee injury, Wilson didn't have a great year. So I think he's going to be better this next year. I think he's going to be a year further removed from his injury. I think they could bring back essentially the same running back core that delivered the lion's share of the carries for them in 2021. But the question is, do they spend money to bring back this wild card in Raheem Mostert? And if health is a pipe dream, or if it's even a question, and it obviously is, the 49ers may have to think long and hard about a potential bidding war with the Miami Dolphins. Because here's the thing. Raheem Mostert's from New Smyrna Beach, which is the shark attack capital of the world. It's actually not Northern California. He surfs out in New Smyrna Beach where they've got these little small sharks that will bite you out there. Anyway, surfer Raheem Mostert from Florida. Now his former offensive coordinator, Mike McDaniel, is the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Remember what the 49ers did back in 2017 when Kyle Shanahan first took over and was looking to build a program. The 49ers were not a destination back then like they are now. They also had a lot of cap room. So what they did is that they overpaid guys veterans who are familiar with their system to be able to establish their culture the way that Kyle Shanahan wanted it to be. So the best example of overpaying a guy for cultural reasons back in 2017 was the money that the 49ers gave Pierre Garçon. To this day, a lot of people say that was way too much money. The 49ers didn't get enough on-field production. But also to this day, the 49ers will say, and this is not just Shanahan, George Kittle will say, this guy taught our youngsters and he set the tone in the building the way that Kyle wanted it to because Kyle was familiar with him. I could easily see Mike McDaniel going out on a limb, signing a slightly aged Raheem Mostert coming off of knee surgery to more money than the 49ers would be willing to pay, given those red flags, to install a system in Miami. And remember, the Dolphins have more cap space than the 49ers. You're talking about supply and demand and purchasing power. Well, the Dolphins have a lot more of it than the 49ers in this case, should they go after Raheem Mostert. So I do think that the 49ers will not really be in control of whether or not they can retain Mostert. If they can get him on a one-year flyer, great. Coming off the injury, awesome. There's really no risk in that, right? If they can get that one-year minimum flyer. But if there is a market there, if there's a team that's willing to pay him a little bit more, and I think that Miami might really qualify there for the reasons I just outlined, I think it's going to be hard for the 49ers to justify matching that given their cap situation. But you have to remember that if Mostert is healthy, he changes the dynamics of this backfield completely. He lets you use Deebo Samuel at receiver instead of running back. And I mean, I think you do want to use Deebo at some running back. You do like the Deadpool package. You do like the fact that I think Deebo might even be more natural as a running back. I know this might sound blasphemous, but Deebo Samuel is just a football player. And when he takes a handoff or a pitch in the backfield, whether he's running outside zone, inside, whatever, it looks like he belongs in that position. I mean, you look at the run that sealed the game against Green Bay. He knew exactly how to move, exactly how to cut, exactly how to sniff out that first down marker. He knows where the blocks are going to be. I think that if you look at the 49ers receiving core, Brandon Ayuk is the designated man beater. The best guy at beating man coverage at the wideout position for the 49ers is Ayuk. Samuel's good at it, but I think Samuel is so good at everything that he doesn't really have a comparative advantage because everything's an advantage for Deebo Samuel. Beating man coverage is the advantage, the comparative advantage for Brandon Ayuk. So with Samuel, he can give you those reps at wideout. He could give you those reps in the backfield. That's why he called himself a wide back, right? He could do both of those. But I don't think you completely want to take and cut out his backfield game just because he looks so damn natural back there. And you look at the results this past season, they were awesome. So between Mitchell and Samuel, you have a foundation. I think both of those guys do a good job for the 49ers. Both of those guys extremely capable. It's how you build the room beyond that. And I forgot to put this note up there. Deebo Samuel is a dominant and natural back. So that's a starting point, right? The question is, does Mostert become part of that group? If a healthy Mostert is a pipe dream, I absolutely think that it's going to be tough to retain him over a potential suitor like Miami, but we'll see what that market actually looks like. And there may be a whole other wrench that we need to use to set as a backdrop for all of this. And that's this. That's number 5. The run game for the 49ers seems set to evolve with Trey Lance under center. The 49ers did a funny thing and several funny things in this past draft. They went after a guard in Aaron Banks who was much larger than the typical guards that Shanahan had acquired in the past. The 330-pounder, yes, I know Banks has lost some weight. They're trying to get him to be more athletic. But long story short, Aaron Banks was more of the mauler type than an outside zone blocking type, even though he could move. They also got Trey Sermon, a back who wasn't necessarily a burner, but more of a guy, yeah, he ran plenty of outside zone at Ohio State, but a guy that could really carve up the inside zone. That's what he did in college. And to me, it seems that between those two moves, between Sermon and Aaron Banks, and, you consider the fact they got Elijah Mitchell late in the draft almost by accident. 6th round, he was still on the board, and he was too good to pass up, so they picked him. But you look at the overarching plan, and you could tell that the two bigger pieces of the overarching plan were Banks and Sermon. And that tells me that they were getting guys to pair with Lance for the long run. And by that, I mean read option, inside zone, a diversification of the run game, a move away from exclusive outside zone usage or majority outside zone usage. So the 49ers could pair Lance's skill set with an offense that was starting to maul a little bit more right up the middle of the field. So I don't know if Aaron Banks is going to work out. I think the 49ers might be more optimistic than outsiders are. And I think that Trey Sermon is going to get more run once this moves to a Trey Lance-based offense. And if that is the case, we have to think about how this applies to the rest of the backfield. And in my opinion, Elijah Mitchell did so much of both this season. I mean, he would eke out those extra yards, tough running up the middle. But Deebo Samuel especially was a back that was cut out for everything. So what I think that we're going to see is a diversification of the 49ers run game moving forward. And I don't know how Mostert may or may not fit into those plans because speed to the outside is always going to stretch things out. But what I'm saying is I don't expect the 49ers to be an exclusively outside zone team. And I guess they never were 100%, but I think that percentage might decrease. I think it did for both Zach Taylor's team, the Bengals, who were in the Super Bowl, and for Sean McVay's team, the Rams, who obviously were also in the big game. And I think that the league is moving, after the initial wave of Shanahan outside zone made things easier for quarterbacks, set up, a several year long run of prominence in the league. I think the pendulum is starting to swing in the other direction. And I think the 49ers are ready to swing it by their own accord with Trey Lance, the quarterback, with Trey Sermon getting some more carries alongside Elijah Mitchell and Deebo Samuel, and potentially with Aaron Banks starting. So look forward to the evolution of the 49ers run game. And it's going to be interesting to see how these players fit into it. Personnel clues, Trey Sermon and Aaron Banks. This is what I was just talking about. I think those things do tell us something. All right, everybody subscribe to the channel. I'll take a couple of questions here before I go on. There's going to be at least one more little video today, maybe with a little bit of food. So get excited for what might be the best grilled cheese in the U.S. That's a little bit later today. It'll be a dinner. It'll be a late lunch with Lombardi. We'll get some grilled cheese in for you guys. But make sure you watch the one from last week too, by the way. Questions. I see a lot of them right now. Questions. I don't want to see any arguments, or I'm not going to put any arguments up on the board here. You guys can argue all that you want. You're just not going to get on the live with an argument. I swear to God. Right here. This is a good one. Wasn't Trenton Cannon a Pro Bowler, special teams this year? No, he wasn't a Pro Bowler. Richard Hightower was talking about Trenton Cannon as if he was playing at a Pro Bowl level, but obviously he suffered that scary concussion against the Seahawks where the ambulance had to come out. So Trenton Cannon, I mean, he could be in that backfield again as an emergency back and as a special teams guy for the 49ers. But that's just a situation with Trenton Cannon where I don't think you could expect him to be a 4-man rotation contributor. I think he's a special teams guy. And they had to give him a couple emergency carries against Philadelphia, but I don't think it's going to be much more than that. David, do you think they'll bring in Marlon Mack for a workout? That was a name this year that was being floated around because Jonathan Taylor was getting all the work in Indianapolis. And I think the 49ers will scour whatever they can on that free agent market to potentially replace a guy like Mostert. But I think that everybody is eligible because they just need bodies in the room. Mack might fit the scheme, right? Especially I think he's a diverse runner. I think he's a guy that can give you some inside stuff and can also potentially have enough burst to get to the outside. But as I said, the 49ers are moving away from exclusively outside zone running. But what the 49ers truly need is capable bodies, 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 backs deep, because we see this happen every single year. People freak out because they think the 49ers have too many running backs, that they won't possibly fit on the 53-man roster. They're going to have to cut somebody, and they wasted a draft pick or they wasted a signing on somebody. But then they always thank their lucky stars that the 49ers have the 5th and the 6th running back on the depth chart in spring come fall, because the 4 guys in front of them are all hurt and 2 of them are undergoing knee surgery. And the 49ers, without competent running backs in any individual game, see their offense completely fall apart. So this is not just like, oh, they could sign any guy off the street and be successful. They absolutely have to have the right back to fit the scheme, to fit the system, to help build the spine of the offense. So the question for me is, will the 49ers work out and bring in as many guys as possible, either through free agency or the draft, so they can again weather the storm that they've needed to weather over the past several years? And they barely weathered it in 2021. If they don't stumble into Elijah Mitchell in the 6th round, just imagine where the 49ers would be, because Sermon wasn't delivering. Raheem Mostert got hurt. Jeff Wilson got hurt. Where would the 49ers be had they not drafted Elijah Mitchell in the 6th round? I could tell you what, it wouldn't be the NFC Championship game. They're probably out the playoffs. They probably don't qualify for the postseason. So that ended up working out for them, and they need to make sure they stockpile that running back room moving forward. Well, this is a good one, because I think Anthony Lynn might be coaching the running backs for the 49ers this year. Bobby Turner might be taking the year off. They obviously have Lynn now on the coaching staff. What's Anthony Lynn's game plan this season for the run game? So we talk about diversifying the run game. Anthony Lynn is a specialist in diversifying the run game. He's worked under Bobby Turner before. He's played under Bobby Turner before. And he's got experience with Mike Shanahan, right? And now, obviously, there's going to be experience with Kyle Shanahan. But Anthony Lynn has been a power run game kind of guy with an outside zone run game background in his playing career and also in his coaching career. So Lynn, he's one of the brighter minds in football when it comes to devising run games. It's no coincidence that Kyle Shanahan wants him on the staff, because A, if Bobby Turner does take the year off, Anthony Lynn is going to be the running backs coach. And B, even if he's constricted to running backs coach duties, Anthony Lynn is going to be in those meeting rooms every single week, and he's going to be drawing up the run game for the 49ers, which is something that's a little bit of a gap now, right? Something that needs to be filled with Mike McDaniel, who was the primary run game architect before in Miami. So McDaniel was a mastermind. He's a genius behind the run game, behind, the motions, shifting guys from side to side, using Kyle Juszczyk, fellow Ivy League product, the fullback in the blocking game. McDaniel was awesome there. I guarantee you that Anthony Lynn is going to bring a flavor of his own, but he's also very good at this. So it's a perfect puzzle piece. You need potentially a replacement for Turner. You need a replacement for McDaniel. What do? You bring in Anthony Lynn. And I'm excited to see what Lynn can do for somebody like Trey Sermon, who may have a little bit more power to his game. Anthony Lynn can coach those power backs. So we'll see what happens here moving forward. I don't think there's a realistic chance the 49ers will get Saquon Barkley. No. I mean, there's a chance of everything, but I would say no for that one. Do I think that Jimmy will be traded to Washington? Well, they offer a first-round pick. He'll be traded to Washington. That was the rumor today. Again, I told you guys this a couple weeks ago, my Jimmy trade video. The value for him on the trade market is going to be bigger than a lot of people think. And now, lo and behold, people talking about a first-round pick. 49ers get that. They look really, really smart for how they approach this whole thing. And I think they already look good. I think the quarterback plan already worked. Now it's a matter of how high can this baby fly? If they can get a first-round pick, they're going to be sitting really pretty here entering the 2022 draft. All right, one more question, then I got to go. I've already gone a little bit over time. I looked up, and I've been talking for 30 minutes. I must talk too much. I do not see any more right here that I want to answer right now. Got a Rams fan in here enjoying his post-Super Bowl Monday. Congratulations to you, although I'm pretty sure you didn't suit up for the team, so I don't know if you contributed to that. You definitely didn't contribute to the home field advantage, since the NFC Championship game was a road game for the Rams. Here's a question from David. David, is Trey going to be running for his life if he can't get rid of the ball fast like Jimmy, and how our offensive line is built for the run? I mean, this is a great question, and this is a huge takeaway from the Super Bowl. The pass protection for Trey Lance needs to be better than it was for Jimmy Garoppolo. It's, in fact, even more important that the 49ers have good pass protection in front of Trey Lance than Garoppolo, because Garoppolo has a quick release and he's built to deal with inadequate pass protection. Lance, it's not going to be good if he's pressured as much as Garoppolo was, especially in that NFC title game. it's going to be rough. There are going to be turnovers. There are going to be sacks. You're going to impede his growth process. The 49ers need to get better up front. If they had Mahomes, they would need to get better up front. What did the Chiefs do after they got worked in the Super Bowl last year? They went out and they got 5 new starters in their offensive line. They said, to hell with this, we're investing in the front. So the 49ers need to say, to hell with this, we're investing in the front to protect Trey Lance to move forward. Now, you can have a run-first offensive line. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but they need to be competent in pass protection, especially with a new quarterback likely coming in. That's the big takeaway from the Super Bowl. That's the big takeaway for everything, even when we're talking about the running backs. So check it out. State of the 49ers running backs edition. We're moving on to wide receivers and tight ends next time. Be ready for that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. I know a lot of you haven't. I know there are a lot of you watching right now. So hit that button. We'll talk to you soon. And hey, if you watch the next video, you're going to get some good food advice, as you always do. All right, everybody, take care. Enjoy your Monday. Hope you're not too hungover after the Super Bowl. Bye now.